Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Education is important, but not that bullshit, abstract, and theoretical education. You want useful, relevant, and actionable lessons that will help you succeed in life. So that's what we do. It's your boy Pham, your host, and now let's hack your education together. Hey, what's going on, guys? We have another special guest today, and his name is Charlie Hoehn. Charlie is the author of Recession-Proof Graduate, and he went from being an unemployed college grad, living in his parents' basement, to landing dream job after dream job with world-class entrepreneurs like Tim Ferriss, Tucker Max, and Ramit Sethi. And Charlie has been featured on TEDx, NPR, and Forbes, and he's here on the show today to explain his journey. So, Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to dive deeper into your philosophy, but first, I'd love to ask, where did you grow up and where did you go for college?
I grew up in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. It's about 20 minutes south of Denver, and I went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Oh, nice. What were you studying?
I got a degree in, I got a major in marketing and a minor in media studies.
Mm. And you felt that after you graduated, you didn't find opportunities for that job.
Well, I mean, I did, but no one was hiring, or at least no one was hiring through the through the traditional process that every adult told me was the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So just send in a good resume. I remember spending like literally 3 or 4 hours with somebody who was optimizing my resume, and I was like, wow, this is so, I was fresh out of college and I was like, man, I'm so lucky to get this advice. What, like, this is so cool of this guy to do this. But it was just like rearranging chairs on the Titanic, because
Ooh.
just because resumes, employers don't really look at them. The
Mm.
way that they're sent in right now, people email them in and they get hundreds of them, and it's just overwhelming. So if your resume doesn't stand out, or if you're not related to somebody in the company, like if you're not friends with the president or even a fellow employee, you're probably not going to get a call back. So I struggled with going this traditional route that everyone was taking. It was just so competitive and no one was paying any attention to me. So I started doing things differently and I got better results.
Mm-hmm. So you had this like career counselor helping you optimize your resume. You sent in a bunch of resumes, didn't get calls back. What happened next?
Um, I kind of had a little breakdown after somebody I knew from my time at CSU. I talked with them at a party one night and they were like, yeah, I'm so excited, man. I just got a job at Verizon Wireless and I'm going to be, starting as a floor sales rep or whatever. And hopefully within a few months, I can move up to middle manager. And I was just dumbfounded by that conversation because they were legitimately excited. And in my head, I was thinking, what the fuck? Like, how could you possibly think that's a good deal? Like, how could you think after spending 17 years in school under the guise that if you keep doing well in school, you'll have a life of meaningful good work,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just immediately falling into selling phones for a company, and kids who haven't graduated from high school are doing that job. Like
Exactly.
you just spent so much time. Like if it's like if you told me, you know, this is where you're going to end up, I would say, well, why do I need to spend any of that time in school? I can go do that right now,
Mm-hmm.
So I was really frustrated by that people I knew were giving up so quickly, and that I felt that I was going to have to give up too. I remember telling a friend of mine that I was going to have to take a landman job as an oil man in North Dakota,
Mm.
and that paid $70,000-$80,000 starting. I knew I could get that gig, but I was just like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm a creative person. I love doing projects that I create or that I really care about. I just don't. I'm not an oil person. I don't want to do a job just because I need to pay the bills, you
And,
know?
and it seems like you don't even need a degree for that job, do you?
I don't know about that actually. I forget the requirements, but I had an in basically. I knew I would get hired, you know?
Very
Um,
nice.
so I was just like, worst case scenario, I can do that for a while. But I had a breakdown because I was so frustrated. I was like, man, 17 years of doing this stuff that everybody said I was supposed to do, and it takes me to Verizon or it's going to lead to a job like that. That really bums me out. And so what I decided was I told my parents, look, I'm just gonna start doing work for free for and reaching out to people that I want to work with.
Mhm.
And if I make any money during the process, great. But if I don't, I'm still right back where I am right now, except I'll have tried. I'll have done some work. And so that was what happened next. I started doing free work, reaching out to people that I thought were doing good work and interesting things that I would love to be a part of. And I would
Mhm.
come to them, and after researching their business, really doing a full diagnosis of potential areas of weakness or problems in their business, I'd come to them and say, I'm a huge fan of your work. I think what you're doing is awesome, and I kind of lay out that I understood their mission, and then I said, something I noticed is you have these potential issues,
Mhm.
and I'd love to take care of these for you for free on a trial basis, because I know you're probably too busy to handle them, or you might be strapped on budget. I never said you might be strapped on budget, because all these people that I reached out to, I knew had enough money that they could afford to employ me at some point if it made sense. I
Mhm.
never worked for people who I was just like, yeah, I know you're poor, so let me do some work for you. It was always people who were too busy or didn't have the skill set, or just hadn't taken care of the problem because they didn't recognize it. So I
Awesome.
started I started doing that, and I started doing work for awesome people, awesome companies, and within a few months, not only was I getting paid to do that work and to work on stuff I cared about, but employers were actually coming to me in droves.
Mm.
They were actually saying, "We want to hire you," without me ever having to send in a resume, without me ever having to even ask them to get in touch. It was this crazy shift, and it was because I did some things differently from everybody else. And my friends asked me, how the hell are is did like how did you make this dynamic happen? And
Yeah.
that's why I ended up writing the first book, Recession Proof Graduate, because I got tired of explaining how I did it.
Yeah, your friends at Verizon is probably jealous of you right now.
But yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting because it's like it's fascinating to watch people who are super smart, super capable, just wonderful people,
Mhm.
and they just immediately set their sights so low in the face of obstacles and rejection.
Mhm.
I just didn't. I refused to believe that was going to be my future, because I just didn't. I wanted more. I wanted to make a contribution.
Yeah. So I want to dive more deeply into free work. So I was curious, who did you work for first, and how did that first gig happen? You sent them an email, is that correct?
Yeah, so technically, I did a virtual internship with Seth Godin. He's a best-selling author, and he's kind of known as like the king of marketing online, or at least like a guru. Um, I I did that for a few months after college, and then I started working with Ramit Sethi, the author of "I Will Teach You to Be Rich," and I was doing video editing for him because he was great on video, but he never did video because it was super time consuming. And so I said, you're going to get higher conversions. You're going to book more speaking gigs. You're going to be able to sell products better. Your readers are going to like you more. There's huge upside to video. You're just not doing it because it sucks. So let me do it because I genuinely love video. So I was doing that for him, and then that led to me doing getting hired as Tucker Max's videographer for his movie tour. So Tucker is the author of I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, but his book got made into an independent film, and they were touring around the country. And so I got hired as his videographer. So I went from city to city with him in this big tour bus for a month and a half, and just shooting video and turning it into funny videos that we would post on YouTube at each stop. And so, like, I never went to film school, but I got a free film school, or I got paid to have a film school education, right? Because initially I offered to work with him for free, and we did some stuff initially, and I built up some trust, and he read my blog and he said, you're a smart kid, like we should work together. And it's funny, because that was back in 2008, 2009. He and I are like really, really good friends now, and we still work on stuff together. I mean, in fact, later today, I'm going to go, record a podcast with him. I've been doing a podcast with him on a regular basis.
Nice.
So like, and that ultimate, those two recommend, both Ramit and Tucker recommended me to Tim Ferriss, who was just gearing up to start work on his book, The 4-Hour Body. And he was the one that I ultimately wanted to work with the most. In my head, I was viewing every day, every opportunity that came my way as the next step to work with Tim. In my head, I just knew, I was certain that we were going to work together. And then sure enough, it eventually happened. And he and I worked together for 3 years. I was his first full-time employee, and I handled a bunch of stuff kind of behind the scenes. So I helped edit. I was the main editor for his book. I helped him formulate a launch strategy for the book, which sold 63,000 copies in the first week, and eventually sold 1 million copies. It hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list in the most competitive category in the most competitive time of year. And I did a whole bunch of other stuff with him. And so, like, this is important to keep in mind. I was fresh out of college. I was living in my parents' basement in Colorado. I had never met these guys. Tucker lived in Los Angeles. Tim and Ramit lived in San Francisco. I'd never met them. I was a nobody, and I say that because I'm totally serious. Like, I just fundamentally had a better strategy than everybody else, and it worked. And so, like, with the Recession Proof Graduate book, a lot of people have told me over the years, I published that 6 years ago. I've had hundreds and hundreds of people email me telling me that's how they got their job. And Tim, I think you mentioned before we started this that that's how you got your job with working with James, right?
On a trial basis right now, yeah.
Yeah. I
So
mean, and a trial basis is better than nothing, right?
it's my shot to prove myself that I actually could provide value, like you did with your video work or with your marketing or editing work or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So for the listener listening to this and hearing your story, hearing my story, and they're thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Like, Charlie, this may work for you, but I don't have these skills. I'm not as talented. What would you say to that listener?
I'd say, for one, if you decide that it's not true, that it is too good to be true in your mind, then it will be too good to be true. You've automatically limited what you're capable of. I just said that I was a nobody in Colorado, and I ended up being the first full-time employee for Tim Ferriss. Like, what more do you want? I'll add to that. I've got a bunch of case studies both in the book, and I just released a course called "How to Land a Job You Love in 3 Days." And it sounds like a bold promise, but I really lay out in that course exactly how to systematically go about landing a job that you love, even if you have no experience, even if you're in a bunch of debt, and even if you're in a shitty economy. Like I did
Mhm.
all this stuff during the recession, during 2008, when no one was hiring. Like and I pull case studies both in the book and in my course from points in history where people set up these apprenticeships.
Mhm.
My buddy Ryan Holiday, when he was 23, he was the director of marketing for American Apparel and was running like millions of dollars in advertising per year
Yeah.
as a kid, and he did this exact same strategy. This is an absolutely viable path, and I'll tell you, I had a billionaire reach out to me through my website. He was the former CEO of one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Like if I asked you name 5 of the most famous companies in the world, you would very likely correctly guess the company. I
Wow.
can't say his name,
I'm curious now.
but he told me, he was like, I watched your TED talk, and I wanted to get in touch with you because one, I need help marketing my book, and two, he's like, you took the exact same strategy I did
Wow.
when I was just getting started, and he created one of the most powerful companies in the world, one of the most influential companies in the world. And he's like, you did the exact same strategy I did. I've had so many successful people tell me they got their start by doing stuff for free. Jim
Mhm.
Carrey, Warren Buffett. The dude is worth $70 billion,
Yeah, I was gonna
and
mention Warren Buffett.
he started working for free. So anybody who thinks this is not possible, you are limiting yourself in your own mind, and you're shutting down your own possibilities. Either check out the book or the course; it'll show
Mhm.
you exactly how to do it for yourself.
Awesome. This is a very new philosophy to people, and some people might be thinking like, free work. I just spent $100,000 on my college degree, and you're telling me to do what? I'll
Right.
never stoop to that level. Like this
I've
is
had
very new to people. So what would you? Go ahead. Sorry.
I'd say for one, those people, like, okay, it drives me insane when I hear that. Like, I'd never work for free.
Mhm.
Okay, so how about the decade of you getting paid in report cards and SAT scores
Ooh.
and stars? Oh, I'm sorry, you weren't paid. You were paying other people to pay you in letter grades.
Mhm.
How's your bank account doing? Oh, it went down. That's right. So I'm suggesting free work where your bank account stays the same and you just invest your time and energy into stuff that you actually want to do.
Mhm.
You spent decades doing other people's agendas, working on busy work that didn't get you anywhere and it wasn't even stuff you wanted to do. So
Mhm.
you criticizing that and saying it's preposterous for me to come up with my own agenda and do things that I want to do and surround myself with people I like. No, I'm going to apply to a company that I don't really even want to work for and wait for somebody to tell me what to do so I can get a measly paycheck that covers my bills and covers my Amazon expenses.
Yeah.
Get a life. Like you're a joke. Like you've been brainwashed into what society wants you to do. And it's not like an insidious plan of society. This is just an ancient relic. The system of work that we have is an ancient relic of the Industrial Revolution. It's totally antiquated. It doesn't work, but it still exists. And so it's your choice to take control of your life. Look,
Mhm.
like every professional athlete, every single one did free work. Every single one of them played in college because they were required to. And people are adamant about them playing in college because they insist that the value is there, even though they're preventing those people from making millions of dollars. They insist on the value of free work in college, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Why is it so insane for me to suggest that you work for free on a at with people of your own choosing and projects of your own choosing. I'm asking you to create your career and do stuff that you enjoy. And I'm setting you up for not only intrinsic rewards of fulfillment and enjoyment and fun, but I'm setting you up to get paid a premium rate to do stuff that you actually want to do. And
Mhm.
I'm showing you a lifelong strategy of doing it so you never have to worry about being unemployed ever again.
I
So that is my response to people who think that free work is ridiculous.
I love your blunt honesty, and it's great. I think this is gonna be one of the best podcasts so far.
Good.
So, I know we won't have enough time to go through each step-by-step process, which you can definitely dive in deeper with Charlie's book, Recession Proof Graduate, or his career course on his website, charliehoehn.com. But I would love to just ask you, what are the first few steps for someone who's listening to this and say, okay, I'm convinced, Charlie. What should my next two steps be?
Yeah. Um, so the first, I lay this out in the course. I like it. I like how I laid it out more in the course than I did in the book. The book is a little bit jumbled. I just never went back and fixed it. But the first two steps are number one, build a showcase, which is an online portfolio of that tells your story and that shows people immediately within a few seconds what you're capable of doing and what you look like and what you're about. So already I know in some listeners' heads they're getting overwhelmed. They're like, "Oh, great. Now I got to go start a blog and like all this stuff." Actually, no. That's what I used to suggest years ago because that used to be the best option. There's a site called
Strikingly.
strikingly.com and
Cool.
another site called about.me that make this process super fast, super easy. And you just put together a real simple site that has your story, some stuff about you, how you can help other people, and the types of results and transformational work you've done. So pictures of it and some write-ups of it, and pictures of you and your contact information. I say that you need this because people don't process resumes because human beings want to see that there's a human being on the other side,
Mhm.
right? Like, no one wants to read a bullet point list of your exaggerated accomplishments. They want real stories, they want real faces, and they want to see what you can do for them. And I explain this more in depth in the course, but that's your first step is set up
Mhm.
a free Strikingly or about.me site. Set one up and use that and put that in your email signature so every time you reach out to these people, they can check you out, right? And immediately they feel like they've met you. That is the pre-interview before you ever talk to these people on the phone or
Mhm.
face to face.
Yeah, the first thing they're gonna do is Google your name.
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
the first thing that's gonna come up.
Exactly. So just like, here's the thing is everybody who has a resistance to creating their site or their blog, look, I get it. But this will take you 20 minutes and it can last you a lifetime,
Mhm.
right? Or it can last you years. If you don't do this, when they Google your name, you better be in control of those results and they better be good because that's their first impression of you. So if it takes them to your Facebook page where you're, getting drunk and goofing off, that's their first impression of you, like it or not. If it takes you to your LinkedIn, like that's their first impression of you, like it or not. So why not just direct them to something that makes you look really favorable and employable first?
Mhm.
So that's the first step is like you have to control people's perception of you online before they meet you so that they can know, like, and trust you
I love it.
before they ever talk to you. The second thing is you got to pick your target. You pick a target that you really want to work for, and you consider like, is this the type of person or company that has a mission that I really am in align with and really admire? Is this the type of person or company that I would be thrilled to help take their work to the next level? Like, how can you serve them? Like, make a list of your targets, because to me, my number one target was Tim. And
Yeah.
Ramit and Tucker just happened to be people that I really loved and believed in, and Seth too. And so to get a chance to help them was just like icing on the cake. And it ultimately gave me the foundation needed for Tim to trust me because he was like, oh, this kid's worked with two friends of mine.
He
And
must be
so,
good.
yeah, so he must be good. So those are the first two steps. And then the following steps are to audit your target to really diagnose their problems. That's a really comprehensive process where you research them as thoroughly as you can.
Hmm.
The next step is to give them a gift, which is often either free work or a sample of your work or something that they can use right away that will help them. It's the pitch part of your process that sets you up to be hired. And in the course and the book, I give scripts that you can use to pitch people. The next step is once you get hired and you're on a trial basis, is execute. You get shit done. And then
Hmm.
the final step is to transition to either sell them on working with you on a paid basis or to seek opportunities with them, more opportunities with them. Like maybe there's a partnership opportunity. Maybe there's a way you could set up monthly retainers, or maybe there's a way that they can introduce you to good friends of theirs that need a full-time reliable employee. And if for whatever reason, last case scenario, for whatever reason you're not able to sell them or the deal doesn't work out, fine. Just start the process over. Update your showcase with the work you've done, and reach out to the next target, and just keep going.
I love it. And this is gonna all be found in Charlie's book, Recession Proof Graduate, or on his website, on the career course. And Charlie, I want to respect your time, and I want to wrap this interview with a question that's on everyone's mind: is why isn't everyone doing this? Why are people still settling for Verizon Wireless sales jobs when you had this playbook that people can literally copy and paste the email scripts that you have and do free work? Why isn't everyone doing this?
Well, for one, it's never been really taught. I think everyone kind of goes along with whatever they're taught in school, and what they're taught by their parents. We're all taught what worked for past people, and and doing busy work is what we're conditioned to do. So actually sending out your resume hundreds of times and never getting results is busy work. That's exactly what you did in school, so it feels very natural, right?
Yeah.
And we just sort of become accustomed to falling in line with the least resistance. We get burned out in school from having to resist all this work that we don't want to do. We just kind of trudge our way through it. So I think doing this strategy isn't for everybody, actually. This strategy is for people who are still ambitious, for people who are still willing to hustle, for people who still really want a life where they do stuff that they care about, where they make a contribution. It is absolutely not for people who are ready to settle into a desk job just so that they can, fall in line with the checklist of how to be a successful American, of like, oh, I got to buy a house, I got to buy a car, got to get a wife, got to have kids, got to get the white picket fence, and blah blah blah. Check off all these boxes. It's not for people like that. It's for people who really want to take control of their life and take an unconventional path. Even though because it's unconventional, or just because it's unconventional, doesn't mean it's wrong.
Hmm.
You know, I think I think it was Mark Twain who said, anytime you're doing stuff that's aligned with the majority, it's time to pause and reflect, right? Like anytime you're following along with the crowd, you need to stop and think. And that's
Hmm.
exactly like why I started doing this strategy in the first place, is because I was doing what the crowd was doing and it didn't work.
This has been so awesome. I'm extremely confident that the person listening to this is gonna benefit so much, and definitely check out your book. Charlie, where can we find more about Recession Proof Graduate and your career course?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Go to charliehoehn.com. And we didn't really talk about this in the episode, but if you just Google the phrase cure anxiety, my site is the first one to pop up. That's the most popular article I've written by a pretty large margin. So if you want to check out my other writing, that's a good place to start. But you'll be able to see on my site, that's CharlieHoehn.com. You can see where you can get the books and the course.
Awesome. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for your time and coming onto the show. We really appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you soon.
My pleasure, Tam. Thanks so much, man. And yeah, let me know when the episode's out.
Will do. Take care, Charlie.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.